to give some advice. If you're a law enforcement out there on the street, tired because you're working short shift because there's not enough people to go around and just run down, know that you're doing the right thing, but at the same time wondering at what cost is this right thing? Are you truly respected? What do you have to say to that law enforcement officer who still suits up and shows up every day and makes a difference in their lives? And followed by that, what would you say to those people within the community, those ones who complain and say that, you know what, law enforcement doesn't reflect who we are? What do you say to them about stepping up and be that change that you talk about? Give some advice. Let's.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first part is the American law enforcement officer. The first thing that I want to say is something that they don't hear anywhere near enough, and that's simply thank you. Thank you for protecting the freedoms that we have in this amazing country. And thank you for suiting up when a guy like me can't do it anymore. I am that early retirement, leave early guy. And I did it because I wanted to be able to spread this message on a greater scale. But it was hard. I worked through the George Floyd issues, and I was in Long Beach for huge riots where thousands of people rioted. I worked through COVID and all those incidents. But I think for a police officer, we have to look at it from two angles. Number one, find the support amongst your peers and support your peers. There is so much value in being positive internally. The negative internal systems in law enforcement right now are leading us to unfortunate trauma. And I hate to say this, but they are one of the factors that leads us to the fact that police officers kill themselves more frequently than a lot of Americans. And suicide is a very real deal. So I would say that internally, we have to do a better job of supporting each other. Outside, I will tell you that when you get out of the car and when you make an impact serving from a whole heart, a lot of the rules and restrictions won't affect you very much because professionalism deals with duty, right? You have to do it and you have to do it this way because if not, it's a violation of policy. But caring comes from desire. And when you are professional and deal with professionalism with desire, and your badge has that heartbeat and not an ego, you go out there and you do things differently. You go out there and you deal with somebody who did not directly impact the rule that exists. It's just, you don't just find that state senator, right? You're going out and you're dealing with human beings. And when you go out there and when you serve from a whole place, making sure safety comes first, safety on both sides, and you go out there and you serve with that whole heart, I think that you'll take yourself back to your why. And that's the second part of it. Why did you get into this profession? And what is it that you can still do to answer your why? You still arrest people. You still go out there and provide a service. You make people feel safe. You still take one person off the streets and you help one victim at a time. And when you go out there and you do that, I hope that you remember the power that you have. What I do at the end of our courses when we speak to police officers, and we have a 1-hour piece on trauma and resiliency because we feel that we have to address that. That's an unaddressed piece. But what we do is we ask a police officer, and I'll ask each and every person that listens to this podcast to do this. If you're active law enforcement, take that thank you and make something of it. Drive to the highest point and the highest peak in your city. Get out of the police car that nobody else has the opportunity to drive except you. And understand that the next 911 call you're dispatched to is a 911 call no one will go to if it's not for you. And the same thing holds true for the children in the city that you live in that you don't police. No one will respond to your kids when they need help if it isn't for our American police systems. And when you get out of that car, you feel that wind and feel that breeze and let that cape fly in the air and understand that you are the best of the best. But your responsibility and calling is greater than that. Your responsibility and calling is to fight to get better. And our resiliency and our trauma recovery, PTSI and PTSD recovery, it really needs to have this component of us getting better. We can't settle for mediocrity or substandard work. We got to go out there and do our best. And we have to find positive in a negative environment. I know that's hard. For the community member, for the person that lives, works, or plays in a community, there are so many things you can do to help out a police officer. You can talk through training systems with your friends, with your family, with your kids, but you can also just show some gratitude. Go out there and thank a police officer when you can. There's so many different things you can, give a cop a football, right? Give a cop a football and tell them to throw it around with your kids. Wave at people with 5 fingers, not just one. Give commendations when police officers are doing it right. Go out there and say thank you and ask questions of police officers. Force police officers into an uncomfortable position just by asking them questions, but don't do it by screaming at them in the middle of a traffic stop. Find the right time and understand that things are very dynamic and very dangerous in this job, and give just a little bit of leeway and grace as police agencies work through the explanation and transparency process when violent acts do occur. It's not always as it seems, and we have to be able to take a step back and understand reduction of ego, controlling energy, and taking that empathetic approach. When we do that with both sides, we both better attain and better achieve our greatness. We work to get 2% better every day, and we're out there to be the leaders that we know we can be. Police officers don't just wear police uniforms. Anybody that's willing to stand between good and those making bad decisions, those are the police officers. You're the protectors of this community. And we have to work together and unite to do this and not divide. And just because somebody makes a bad decision doesn't make them a bad human being. We need to be able to see past all of those ideas, come together, take our thought processes and put them together instead of dividing them. And we need to better unify. A lot of that has to do, though, with for the police wellness and for the community wellness as well. We have to work through getting over some of this trauma over the last couple of years. It's got to be really, really hard to respond to a radio call right now. And it's also got to be really, really hard to be a person of color and trust the police. Right now, because of these systems that we have, it's hard for both sides. We got to work through those ideas and continue to push on and push forward. And I hope that leads to future safety, because we are seeing way too much violence out there on both sides. And it's got to stop.
Yeah, Jason, I think I'm going to I think I'm going to leave it there. There's no way to say it any better than you just did. I'll take a stab at it. I'll quote one person who, Maya Angelou, says something that I think is so profound and fits so much into what you just described. Yeah, it's people might not always remember what you said. They might not always remember what you did. They will always remember how you made them feel.